Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, we're going to be doing episode 2 of my How to Ira series. We're going to be talking about deck building principles, not just from a deck list perspective, but some general guidelines that I think you can do, and also go a little bit more in depth on them to hopefully give you a good foundation on when you're making the choices for every single card in your deck, and just give you a good starting point when it comes to building the style of Ira that you want to play. So hopefully enjoy this content. If you're new, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you're a long-standing supporter, thank you so much. Feel free to check out the Discord down below, all of that good stuff. We will get right into it. So again, I'm gonna do some general guidelines, but I'm also gonna kind of go in depth on like 2-card hands, 3-card hands, some things that you can look out for, some ratios that you can try to implement that'll really help you. When it comes to Ira, this was the first deck that I really ever played from a perspective of taking apart a deck. Now, I know I played it in Blitz, so it's a little bit different, right? However, this was the first hero where I was really like, okay, every card matters and means something. You know, Ira's whole thing is she's so flexible and she can outvalue her opponent so much. But, you know, how do you make this hero that thrives on consistency the most consistent she can be? And you know, I started, because every player will play Ira, and sometimes you'll draw a hand where it's like 3 blues or 4 blues, or you'll draw like 3 blues and a sink below, and you're like, oh my goodness. And some people, like, yes, it's going to happen in the deck. It just happens sometimes, but like, how do you limit that, right? How do you see exactly what you want to see in every hand so you can really just abuse the value that she gives you? So hopefully some of this helps. The first thing we're going to do is go over 4 general principles. The first one is the deck thrives on meta knowledge. Now, I know this sounds like a no shit type thing, right? Like pick the cards that are applicable into the meta, but it's not just that, right? Like Ira already can do 13, 14 value turn cycles with her eyes closed, right? And she can even go higher than that if you're really drawing the cards you need to draw. So when you can combine that with I will say the word perfect cards in order to kind of abuse that value, that's what just makes her super scary, right? Because getting +1, +2 value is good in the game. It's really, really good, and it can really kind of slowly turn the tide. But when you combine that with really, really applicable on hits that matter, it just makes her so much better. So you have to be really pointed with every single card you put in a deck. The second one is consistent ratios. So this kind of goes in with reaction, and we'll get more in depth here in a second on this slideshow. But when it comes to reactions, non-attacks, blue count, red attack count, stuff like that in a 60-card core, there's certain, I think, ratios that you can do from a simplified perspective in order to see the hands that you want to see almost every turn, or at least more consistently. Now, I'm not going to get a hydrogeometric calculator out or anything like that, but I do think mine fall in pretty close to what you would want to do from a math perspective, and we'll get more into that here in a second. The third one is you want to always focus on what do my 2-card hands look like in the deck and what do my 3-card hand look like in the deck. Whether you're playing an aggressive version of Ira, a mid-range, or a control, it does not matter. There are going to be certain times where you can maybe try to steal tempo with a good 4-card hand, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But the deck thrives. It really thrives on 2-card hands, to be completely honest. And it really wants to do even better on 3-card hands, right? The normal 2-card damage hand in Flesh and Blood is 6 damage, right? And the normal decent 2-card blocking hand in Flesh and Blood is 6 block, right? 2-3 blocks. So that's 12 value. Well, with Ira, when you can combine, we'll talk about that here in a second, when you're blocking for anywhere from 7 to 9 value, and then you can swing for 8 value, all of a sudden you're getting like a 17 value turn cycle. And we'll talk about that here in a second. So you really want that 2-card efficiency as much as humanly possible. The 3-card efficiency even more. The average 3-card damage hand on average is around 9, but you can get 11 or 12 pretty consistently in the deck, and we'll talk about that in a second. So you really want to make that the best it can be. And the last one is an equal extender to finisher ratio. We'll talk about that more in depth here in a second, but basically a card, an example of extender is a go again card that then sets up your finisher. The most common example is Bittering Thorns and Command and Conquer with a blue. Bittering Thorns is your extender, Command and Conquer is your finisher, right? Bittering Thorns extends the chain and potentially buffs Command and Conquer, and then Command and Conquer will punish your opponent for either overblocking Bittering Thorns, so it can't get that +1 value, or they let it hit, and all of a sudden Command and Conquer is coming in for 8, +1 from Ira, and +1 from Bittering Thorns. That's like a really good one, right? But another version of this could be something like Spinning Wheel Kick and Censor, right? Maybe you do something like Kadachi for 1, Spinning Wheel Kick for 5 off of Ira's ability, and then you finish with a Censor for 5. Now that's a 3-card 11, and you know, either they have to block out a 5-power attack to potentially try to stop Mask Momentum, or they take some damage and then wait and see what your finisher is, and then you come in with Censor, and they're like, well, you know, do I let them draw and potentially get an on-hit from Censor? You know, do I chop block this? What do I do? And it really puts your opponent in a constant decision point in order to honestly make an efficient plays. So we'll kind of talk about that here in a second. So we'll get into this. So the first thing we're talking about is ratios. That's going to be the next like two or three slides. The first thing is reactions, non-attacks, and instants. Excuse me, that cough's still here from being sick. So in a 60-card core, my general rule of thumb is you want no less than 12, just because of the way Ira plays, and no more than 18. In a very aggressive list, I only want around 12 of these. Now, this counts attack reactions too. If you have Ancestral Empowerment, it counts, you know, Sink Below. It also counts Sigil of Solace, stuff like that, right? Oasis Respite. In our aggressive list, you want 12. In a more control list, I want 18. The reason for that is in an aggressive list, I want maybe one a turn, probably one every other turn, and 12 normally gets you there for that, typically. 18 in a control list will not guarantee like you will have one per turn, but it's a pretty good rate of getting pretty much one per turn, which is what you're looking for of a more control list. Then somewhere between is 15. Now you could up this a little bit, but this is generally where I want to be. Some people could even say 15 to 21. The problem with this is you start running in the mid game, you'll start getting these hands with like 2 reactions and 2 blues. And it really can stunt your consistent tempo, because we don't want plays where we have a Flick Flack, a Sink Below, a blue Crane Dance, and a blue Fine Center. We don't want that, because yes, we might block, you know, for 7 or 9 on our turn, depending if Flick Flack pairs with something, but on their turn, we're only swinging, and this is if we attack with the blue, we're only swinging for 5. So what could have been a 17 value turn now turned into like a 14, which is still okay, you know, but it's not what we want to be doing. So you have to be really careful with that. So 12 to 18 cards that are a reaction, a non-attack, or an instant. Basically cards that do not attack. You want 12 to 18 in your deck, depending if you're lean more aggressive or lean more control. The next one is blue count. This one's a little bit more simple. I like to have 18 to 21 blues in my deck. Also, really quick, it was on here, and I literally put it on here to remember. Also, that counts for cards like Warmonger's Diplomacy, right? It might not be a defense or an attack reaction, but if it's a non-attack, it counts in that ratio number. Sorry, go back. For blues, you want 18 to 21. Even if it's an aggressive list, unless you're running like a Cheerios Ira, which I haven't seen yet, maybe someone will do that. I think you still need 18 to 21. You want to utilize those Kadachis, even in a more aggressive list, right? You want to lead with that Kadachi, then, you know, play 100 Winds for 4, then play Bittering Thorns for 4, and then end with something else with a +1 maybe from Bittering Thorns, right? Like you're wanting to do that. So because of that, you want to have 18 to 21 blues. You could side into 15 if you wanted to, but I think you will drop in consistency. I would not go above 21. I really wouldn't, unless you are doing a hyper control Ira list, maybe Count Your Blessings or something, and you want to run like 24. I could see it, but 18 to 21 is what you want to run. And so what that leaves you is, it leaves you a really clean example of what a 60-card core will look like. So in a more aggressive list, you might have 12 cards that are reactions or instants or non-attacks in a 60-card core. You'll have around 18 blues, so that's 30 cards of your deck, and then I will leave you with 30 non-blue attacks, if that makes sense. So your list is about 50-50 from red / yellow attacks and then blue instant reaction non-attacks. In a more controlling list, you're going to run around 18 reactions, instants, and or non-attacks, around 21 blues, and that will put you, quick maths, I'm really bad at, 39 cards, so that will leave you around 21 cards that are red or yellow attacks, which again, you're relying a little bit more on Kodachis, things of that nature. Now, as you board up, if you decide to board up, it's very similar to Azalea, where you know how Azalea always wants to keep those like arrow, non-arrow ratios as she boards in. Same thing with Ira. You want to try to keep those ratios in there. Otherwise, you start clunking up your deck and making, making things a little bit harder on yourself. So try to keep this in mind when you're doing this. And again, I'm not saying this is the 100% foolproof way to make Ira the best deck in the game. This is just a way that I've seen that has worked. So here's a mid-range hand example. This is the most tried and true one. We have a Flick Flack, 2 blues, and what I call a finisher. Now, the finisher could be Command and Conquer. It could be Censor. It could be Take the Tempo. It could be even like a Mauling Key or Pounding Gale, whatever the case may be. Basically, you're looking for 2 blues, a defense reaction, and a finisher. What that allows you to do in a mid-range hand example is play an efficient 2-card hand. So as you can see in the top left, a little bit small, on the defensive turn, they attacked with 2 attacks. I blocked with a Flick Flack for 4, which allowed me to block with Flusterfist for 5, giving me 9 value on the defensive side. And then on offense, we swing that last blue that we had, which was Fine Center, and we go Kodachi for 1, Kodachi for 2, Censor for 5, and we're threatening that Mask Momentum trigger if they do not block any of the Kodachis. So we're swinging for 8, we defended for 9, which gives us a 17 value turn cycle. That is your typical mid-range hand that you're trying to get every single turn. And the way you do that is you keep some of these ratios that I've been talking about that will allow you to see these things more consistently. Now, if this Censor is not a finisher and it's an extender, maybe like a Bittering Thorns or a Spinning Wheel Kick, that's completely fine. You can still do this line where it's 1, 2, 5. You just won't have an on hit. When I say finisher, I mean it has some type of on hit that your opponent wants to care about. But really, if they ignore your Kodachis, every single third attack is a finisher because it's going to threaten Mask Momentum trigger. So there's that. So again, you're trying to get these turn cycles that really, really matter. Then we have the aggro version of, what you're wanting to see in an aggro 4-card hand. So typically in a 4-card aggro hand, I want one extender. This is an ideal world, right? 1 extender, 1 starter, 1 finisher, and 1 blue. What this allows me to do is things like this, where I can start with my starter, 100 wins for 3. It can be head jab. It could be, anything. Then we play our extender, like a Bittering Thorns for 5. This also could be a Spinning Wheel Kick for 5, a Leg Tap for 5. It could even be another 0 cost if you wanted it to be, but this is just like the highest value line. And then we end on a finisher like Command and Conquer, Erase Face, something like that. Even if it was like a Censor, that's totally fine. Again, this is the most ideal version. But what this gives us is we just did a 4-card 14, which is 2 value above the average rate. It's even a 4-card 15. And even if you take some of the ideal attacks out here, let's say we had 100 wins, Spinning Wheel Kick, and a Take the Tempo, right? You're able to do like Kodachi for 1, 100 wins for 4, right? Your pitch your blue, and you have 100 wins, Take the Tempo, and Spinning Wheel Kick. So you Kodachi for 1, 100 wins for 4, that's 5 value. Then you play something like Spinning Wheel Kick for 4, that's 9 value, and then you end on a Take the Tempo for 5, which gives you up to 14, which again, you're 2 over the average rate. So that's what the aggro version is looking to do, is create these breakpoint long chains using extenders, and then go into your finisher at the end, whether it's a Censor, Command and Conquer, Weakest Link, Erase Face, things like that. So that's basically an example of what we're doing here and what we're trying to do. Maybe I can pull this up really fast for you all if I give myself a second. I'll go ahead and pull this up. Again, professional YouTuber here. I'm not going to do a deck list, but I'm just going to give you a quick snapshot of some of what I'm really talking about here. So, as you can see in the 60-card core, we're following a lot of the principles I said. So the first thing I said was 12 to 18 cards that are not attacks, right? So this is a mid-range list. We have 6 Flick Flacks here. We have 3 Razor Reflex, that's 9. 3 Sink Below, that's 12. And 3 Warmonger's Diplomacy, that's 15. Then we look at blue count. We have 18 blues. Really simple. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. We have actually 21 blues in this list. I forgot I added in Warmongers in the main board. So we're a little high on our blues, which is fine. It's a little bit higher. I'm probably going back into forth between 18 and 21. And then what does that leave us with? We have 21 blues. 3 of them bleed into the non-attack. So if we have 15 of those, 15 of the cards that aren't attacks, red attacks, and then we have 18 additional blues, we're looking at 27 cards left in the deck that are like not a blue or a non-attack version card. So when you look even deeper into ratios, if you look at extenders, I have Bittering Thorns, which is 3. I count Lightning Strike as an extender. It's like a soft one, but it is at 6. Give and Take is 9. Spinning Wheel Kick is 12. And Standing Order I count as a finisher. It's kind of, this is more of just like a tech card. But we have 12 true extenders in my opinion. As far as finishers, we have a Censor for 3. Command and Conquer is 6. Mauling Key I count as an extender just because it doesn't have a go again. It is a combo card that can be defensive. That's 9. Take the Tempo is 12. So as you can see, my extenders and my finishers are even, and that's purposeful because I want to see them an equal amount together, if that makes any sense, right? And obviously you have to be flexible with this, right? If you don't draw the finisher, then you use your extender as your finisher, right? It doesn't matter. You're still getting the same value. You just might not get as many on hits, if that makes sense. So that's a 60 card core. And then my sideboard, which is very simple. Again, this is a stock list. This isn't my final deck list. Is like Double Strike. So if I were to board up in here, if I board up in the, let's say I'm playing Viserai and I put in 3 Erase Faces, I might end up taking out, another finisher like Mauling Key, right? Because if I put in this Erase Face, now all of a sudden I kind of offset my extender to finisher. Now that's not a bad thing. I can always do Kadachi for 1, Erase Face for 7. That's fine. But if you're wanting to stick to that 60 card core, if you want to put in the Erase Faces, maybe you take out your Standing Orders. Maybe you take out your Mauling Keys. Something like that. Maybe you take the Tempo if you really want to do that in order to make it more successful. If I put in something like Double Strike against Enigma, I kind of want more extenders for Enigma to go wide, so it's a little bit different of a practice. But maybe I take out a finisher in order to make my board go a little bit wider, make it harder for Enigma to really stop what I'm trying to do. So hopefully that makes sense. I tried to go in depth enough to where it gave you a good foundation, but it's not too in the weeds to where you get lost. Hopefully some of this made sense. These things have helped me have a very consistent deck. Now, if you have a different way of approaching it, please let me know. I'd love to hear it. Ira is one of the most flexible heroes in the game. That's why she is so powerful. So there's so many different ways to build her and play her and approach her, right? Some people approach with a 9 flick-flack flying kick, right? And that's not even a bad thing. That's a good way of doing it to get the most value possible. Some people want to do more of an on-hit focus. Some people want to use even bigger than that and go a little bit aggro. It all depends on what you want to do. So hopefully this made sense. I am excited to kind of go over the deck list. The next one I have it right here beside me. The next one I'm actually going to talk about is the tier list, like what I think she's good and bad into. That'll come out tomorrow at the time you're watching this. And then we're going to get into some deck list reviews and then some gameplay. So hopefully that'll help you out as well. But if you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If not me, it's completely fine. Go to another creator, leave a like, comment, subscribe on their stuff. Let's get more people seeing this game. Hopefully this was quick and concise, but also detailed enough for you. Let me know if I missed anything or anything you want me to go over in further detail, and I'll try to do that for you. Thank you all so much. Y'all have a good night. Stay safe.